right, so here's a story of how I know Amanda Steele, the YouTuber. Yes, back in 2010, I talked to her, well, many times, like from 2010 all the way to like 2014, 15, somewhere back then. And this is before, and yes, I know she has, and so these are some of my stories. So then, if she sees this, she knows it's authentic and stuff like this. So this is the story way back in like 2010. Now, this isn't the same channel. So let me tell you what happened. It's a long story, but like around 2018, my original channel that I had for like, I don't know how many years, since like 2015, it was taken down because I don't know if you know the Bertales, but back in then when they were together, Billy and his wife, Katie, but then they got divorced or whatever happened. Well, anyway, this is the time that they moved around, and I had saw that they're like promoting this. Trying to make money off YouTube by just promoting stuff about, oh, let me just show you a video, and then they show you a video, and then like, oh, but you're gonna have to watch part 4, part 5, part 6. But it was just like a continuation of the same video. They're just trying to make money off of it. And I thought, well, that's kind of messed up, right? I said, all these people that watch their channel, like I did at the time, I was like, why is it that, and I had a pretty good following. I had I would make about, I don't know, maybe a couple 100,000 views a day at the time. And anyway, the next, like within that day of posting, I posted their address of their new home. And it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing about it. Because I was saying how people have, they buy $2 million homes and they're changing. It was a whole thing at the time. And I remembered that same day, YouTube took me, they permanently deleted my account, and I had over 365 videos, just that alone, over 900 videos, but the 365 main ones that I had on there was of my family and all that stuff. And I told them, well, can I have the videos of at least the videos? And of course YouTube said no. And it was Billy, the one that had told YouTube, and at YouTube at the time, they were really big on YouTube. And it's just like the same thing with like the whole, people, I'm not going to mention anyone's name, but YouTube stars doing things, and then anybody else would get banned from their guidelines and rules, but yet they're making so much money helping YouTube that they just let it go. So anyway, that was the whole thing that happened to me. People that are like in contracts and all that stuff, they get more leeway and they get away with everything. And the people that are actually hardworking, get, it's whoever has the most money gets whatever they want, right? But anyway, how I knew Amanda Steele is there's a couple of stories that happened. I had been watching, I think it was like Tramp. And you got to remember, this is 2010. This is like, jeez, man. I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. This is crazy. I can't even remember. It was so long ago. But I remember her after all these years. I haven't watched her channel in like 7 years. But I remembered her at the time because we used to talk before she was famous. She was always in her room. And she would do these, her name was actually Makeup by Mandy. That's what we called her, right? Or that's what her name was. But I knew it was Amanda Steele, but, it was Makeup by Mandy. That was her whole thing. And at the time, I remember, because I remember her mom and dad, and I remember this, like, this is stuff that I'm telling the truth. And okay, her dad's a school teacher. I remember that. And then also I remember they took a trip to Hawaii. And I remember her saying, oh yeah, her dad was smoking a cigar. And she said, oh yeah, you can't be doing that, or something like that. Like a good daughter. Like, I think, like back then, I thought she was really mature, really smart. Even if it was in 2010, like she was really cool person, right? And like she's smart. And I remember her, telling her dad that, can you do that? You know what I mean? Like and then I remember her dad said, "Oh, well, it's legal. It's legal." And then her dad was actually like some kind of teacher, school teacher, something like that. And I remembered, and they went to Hawaii, but that's one of the things too. And I remember saying, I'm like back then, you got to remember, this is when I was years and years, and like we were like 2010, guys. Come on, this was when we were just little kids, bro. And I remember, well, not kids, but kind of like teenagers in that area. But I remember like, oh, that's crazy back then, because it was different. Like, we didn't have Instagram or Twitter, and like all that stuff wasn't even. I can't even remember. Like, that stuff wasn't even there. Musically, none of that stuff was there. Nothing was popular back then. YouTube was the only one with, like, in 2005 it was out, but it didn't become popular till like 2010. Super popular. And everybody started using it, But then I remember her because of that. And then we talked because, see, back in 2010, what I had to do to make money was like clean yards, like landscaping and all that stuff. And then go for my neighbors, and I would have to like rake up their leaves, all that, like door to door. Not even my neighbors; they were actually like from the church. Someone that went to the church, to our church, and they tell, oh, like that was the whole job. Like, when I was 12 years old and stuff, that was the whole thing, right? And that's how I made my money. But I never thought, like, I guess, like, when you're younger, you don't know about poor and rich, right? But I remember on YouTube. And I see this girl, like, and I see, man, how does she go to, like, she has nice things, like going to Hawaii, and later on she like has like a Range Rover, and they have this, nice homes and this and that, and they get to go places here and there. And I think it was because I remember way back in the day, dude, like the 10-13 years ago, she went on a vacation. And I think to see her grandmother, some of her family, and they had these, and I think they were in a golf cart, and they had these beautiful homes. And I remember when I said, this is, and like, you got to remember, I didn't see that stuff when I was a kid. I was like, is that real? Like, I always thought it was, because on TV and in movies, they always have like that $10 million house, and like, driving like fast cars or big truck, like that's the thing, And I just thought that was on movies, because everybody around me, I mean, I knew of certain things, but like I thought that was all fake. I didn't think like, oh, someone actually lives like a king, you know what I mean? Like, they actually live like that, because everybody, no one said, hey, I'm rich, like, hey, I actually have money and all that stuff, like, I actually am rich, like, I thought that was all in the movies. And you got to remember, this is 2010. And I remember, this is back in the day, and I think it was YouTube Live, but there was some way that back in the day I used to talk to her when we were like kids and stuff. And I remember, like, she would answer me, like, message. I think it wasn't even Snapchat back then. It was some other thing, and we talked on it. I think it was like Keek, or I don't know what it was, but it was something. And I was so interested in her life back then, because she would do all these cool things way back like 13 years ago. And me, of course, I don't have that. Like, I didn't have that life, right? I was just like, raking the yard for like, $3 or $4, or making $12, as a teenager, you know what I mean? And then like, if I mowed, I never got, like, $20 was the biggest amount I ever got. And they even thought that was too much, because I accepted it, and they think that I would have done it for like 10. But that was like the biggest amount of money, and like, I knew to do anything, I was like, no, I need money to do this, right? And it was such a beautiful thing to see that people actually live like this. And I was so intrigued at the time. And I remember she was so mature back then too, though. Like, she was super mature. And I remember in 2000, like around 2010, like around that area. I can't really, it's hard to remember, but what I remember, and I remember they took like this picture, and I said, man, you go to all these places. And I remember we talked a little bit, and she said it was a picture of her and her friends went to like this, I don't know what it was, uh uh like a wood, like a forest flower stuff. And I remember I was telling her, I was like, man, you get to, take these pictures and do all this stuff and go here and there, and I remember her saying, she's like, actually, it was terrible or something like that. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said that there was like a bunch of thorns or bushes there, or like branches, and she's like, it scratches my leg, it gives, scratches your leg, cuts you and stuff like that. And it was, and there's a whole bunch of more stuff, and I'll get into it in the next video. This video is so long, I can't believe it's already been 10, 12 minutes, 11 minutes. But anyway, I'll go back on part 2. There's a lot more.